Chair. I have one more third rail I'd like to touch.
Yeah, Supervisor McCowan.
Thank you. So obviously this is a very tough budget year. We all know that, but I'm not sure the full reality of it has really hit us all yet. We all know that it's coming and it's going to be tough to deal with, and it'll play out over the next year. But one of the things that the board did approve several years ago was approximately $400,000 in funding to be distributed to the local fire agencies, and we've done that. We have an agreed upon formula for it. We also said at the time that we initially did that it was contingent on availability of funds. And I know we all support our local fire agencies. We want to see them be funded. The reality is some of them, the additional funding that we provide to them is a drop in the bucket. Some agencies are doing very well. Others, if they get $12,000 from us, it's a godsend. But going along with that, we do now have the campground tax that isn't going to raise the $1 million that was forecast, but it's likely to raise a significant amount, more than the $400,000 that we allocate of general fund to fire. So, I really think we should look at, is that $400,000 in the current budget environment funds that could be directed to another purpose, realizing that they will receive more than that amount from the campground tax. And in future years, that campground tax money will grow. So that's another option to look at. It's generally considered Proposition 172 money. That would be funding that could be plugged in to the sheriff's budget towards overtime. So, that's just another consideration. And I'll throw out one more. The cannabis tax had an advisory measure that provided that I believe it was a minimum of 50% of the funding realized from the cannabis tax would be directed to 4 purposes. And one of them was EMS, one was fire, one was cannabis enforcement, and one was roads. So when we look at the cannabis tax revenue, and then deducted from that is to be the cost of running the program. And that's a little bit of a discussion too, that Supervisor Williams and I were supposed to be bringing a recommendation. So, we have a few loose ends here that I think merit some consideration. So I just wanted to add those into the mix also. Thank you.
Chair has check.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Supervisor McCowan brought up some good ideas that we should explore. I don't know if cutting funding to rural fire departments is the best idea. I can tell you during this sheltering in place, my outings have been going to fire calls. Last week I went to a CPR call. Nobody there got paid. The money goes to buy the N95 masks, to do CPR during COVID, to buy AED batteries, right? To buy Band-Aids. The idea of cutting that at this point, I don't think would have public support. I think when we're talking about ambulance shortages and the ambulance system falling apart across the county, the last thing we want to do is cut training and tools for volunteers who aren't even paid to do the service. So the other ideas I think are good. I don't think we should go there on cutting support for fire.
Supervisor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think Supervisor McCowan brought up some good points. But we can do all the planning we want. We can go over this for a week, our budget. We yet don't know what the state and feds will do. and that may be a whole other discussion as we move forward. So I just wanted to put that in the mix.
Okay. And I think that with Supervisor McCowan's idea about the TOT tax for the private campgrounds going to the small or to the fire districts, I think if we took away the other money, that the public would not be happy with us, because that's exactly what government does a lot of times, is put on an extra tax and then use the other money that was going there to supplement something else that they didn't want. So I don't agree with that proposal, but the others certainly we can look at them.
And I don't disagree with your assessment of how the public will view it, but we didn't have the campground tax when we first directed the $400,000 towards local fire, and we did say it's contingent on funds being available depending on the budget. And now we're talking about which other entity, which other department are we going to starve or cut? And here, through the campground tax, it's going to provide more than that $400,000. So we're not talking about cutting the funding, but I understand it would not be politically popular.
It might also be fatal.
Supervisor Jurdy, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I was on the ad hoc committee that helped create the formula that was used of the 172 funds to distribute the money to the fire departments. And I wouldn't support that, taking that away at this point. At the time, we also said that we would continue to look for additional funding, knowing that that was not enough for the fire departments. That eventually led to the campground tax for the fire departments. That we know is not enough for the fire departments, but it was yet another step. I think really what we should do, and I don't know how soon we'll do this, but we could have another ad hoc of the board meet with the fire departments in good faith to look at what other new funding can we come up with for them. But I don't think we should be subtracting funds that we had committed to. So I'm not saying we would be looking at the 172 sales tax dollars or the campground taxes being taken away from fire department, but are there any other funds that we can help them with? And are there some things that they can do that will maybe help out the general fund in some other way? So it's a partnership, and I think that's the way to approach it, would be an ad hoc to work with fire departments to see if there's something they can help us on our budget as well.
Okay, going back to the big picture of this,